What's going on, everybody? How are we doing? Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Want to react more to the Ryan Poles extension. Risk reward type of move, in my opinion. We'll kind of get into the pros and cons. I'll give my initial reaction and then kind of dive deeper into whether or not this is worth the risk, whether or not this will work out or not as time plays out. Want to first give a big shout out to my guys, Cullen Brown, producer Cullen, who just does a fantastic job with me on a daily basis, and Trace Mustakis, aka Moose, for filling in on the initial breaking news reaction video. I was with my wife at a water park. It was our 5-year anniversary yesterday, so could not do a full video. Was able to do a little short reaction for you guys, so hopefully that held you over. But those guys did a great job, so thanks. Saw a lot of positive feedback for them as well, and they deserve it. They really bust their ass. So shout out to them, and subscribe and show them some love, because it's a team effort at Chat Sports. It's a team effort at Bears Now. It's not just me, believe me on that. So thanks to those guys, and thanks to everybody who tuned in and gave them kind words, because they deserved it. Doing a little extra work on their Friday to wrap up their work week. Okay, let's get into my reaction here. 3-year extension to lock him in through 2029. That lines him up with Ben Johnson. Both are on 5-year deals. That's all that really matters. And I think if you're going to look on the positive side of this, they're in alignment. And sure, they didn't come in at the same time, but that has been an issue for years now with the Bears, is that GM, quarterback, head coach have not been in alignment. Now, Ben Johnson wasn't here when they drafted Caleb. Ben Johnson wasn't here when Poles got the job. So is it perfect? No. But I think the Bears are trying to get their two head honchos in alignment here. And I think also just in the, hey, I can get behind this move category. I don't think they do this if Ben Johnson doesn't really like how he's been working with Ryan Poles and what Ryan Poles has done, right? Ben Johnson makes $13 million per year. I don't know what Ryan Poles makes. It is not $13 million. I think Ben Johnson has more pull in the organization overall than Ryan Poles. So what does that tell me? That tells me he signed off on this move. Do I know that verbatim? Have I been told that? No doubt about it. No, but I think that's context clues. And I think that's just obvious. I think when Ben took the job, remember all the chatter, Ben may want to bring in his own GM. Ben may want to do this, may want to do that. And he would have had power to do those type of things, if not here, somewhere else. So I think we've seen enough evidence at this point and how he's talked about Ryan. He likes Ryan. They get along. They see football the same way. They want to build this partnership together. Now, could Ben a couple years from now, potentially try to pull the plug on Ryan Poles? I don't know. Time will tell on that. But Poles had 2 years left on his current contract. So it's not like they had to do this. And that gets us to the other side of this. And we'll break down some of his moves in a second and debate whether or not they should have done this right now. But with 2 years left, they didn't have to do this. And you see the title of this video. It is a risk. Like, this is not risk-free. Now, you could sit there and say, well, even if it doesn't work out, you could just fire him a year or two from now anyway. Like, sure, but then it's like, well, why did you extend him in the first place? What does that mean for Ben Johnson? You could have, if you wanted to, played this first year out. I don't think anybody, even Ryan himself, would have necessarily, like, Ryan may not have liked that, but I don't think anybody who's being fair and logical would be like, that's silly. It's 2 years left on a deal, and the Bears are 15-36 in the 3 years where he's been the GM. I think a lot of that's been out of his control. They've lost a good amount of games that they should have won and have failed due to a lot of coaching errors, and that is from the prior coaching staff. We'll see if that is fixed, but as we've discussed, it can't be worse than Matt Eberflus. Go check out part 1 of my crash outs. Part 2 coming out soon, so stay tuned. Little plug there. Hit that subscribe button. But I see both sides, because I put out a couple of tweets, a lot of replies, and I appreciate the engagement and the conversation around it, and I understand all viewpoints. And you see the extremism, just like with everything in today's world, right? The extreme angles on both sides. I think most people are logical with their points. Like, if you want to say, hey, they're 15 and 36, 2 years left in his deal, there was no need to do this, to rush this, totally understandable. If you want to say, hey, for the first time, these guys are on the same timeline. Like, let's just let these two grow organically together and not leave any confusion, any doubt, anything hanging over anybody's head heading into the season. I totally get that as well. Because now it's like, hey, let's just get down to business. Let's get into training camp and let's play some ball and let's try to win some games. And I think that's really the key here. Ben Johnson is on board with this. And if you're a Ben Johnson guy, I think you have to just kind of have some faith here. And look, let's be fair too. And I've been critical of Ryan Poles, and there were at points last season and early on before Johnson got hired where I was like, man, like, I like this guy. He's smart, but there's been a lot of misses. Even if the coaching hasn't been up to par and the development hasn't been there due to coaching, you could justify doing a full reset at head coach and quarterback, and I wouldn't have argued against it. But once they hired Ben Johnson, it's not like I was like, whoa, I'm back on the Poles train. Let's glaze away. It was like, okay, Ben's on board with this. I could take or leave Ryan Poles based on what I've seen through 3 years. I'm cool with it. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm cool with this move. Why? Because I'm a big believer in Ben Johnson and who he is as a leader, who he is as a coach, who he is as an offensive mind. And if he's cool with this move, then I'm cool with this move. Doesn't mean it's going to work. Doesn't mean I'm never going to be critical of anything Ryan Poles does. It just means, okay, Ben wants this guy to be here. Let's see how it plays out. I think it's fair to kind of have that mindset and have a little bit of faith and trust there. Like, okay, this coach that we all think is very smart and we all think is going to do a good job, he's cool with what Ryan Poles has done. And maybe he said, you know what? And he said it at his introductory press conference. Like, the cupboard is full here. There's a lot of talent on this roster, and I do believe that. Now, that doesn't mean that Ryan Poles has built this thing perfectly, and there haven't been bumps in the road. We could discuss the Claypool thing all day long. Now, I understood it at the time. I defended it at the time because he had 2 productive seasons in Pittsburgh. He tried to get a big weapon for Justin Fields, and it was just a debacle. No one could have predicted it would have gone that bad. Now, was it an overpay in real time? Probably. Clearly, how it played out, it was. And it wasn't a fit. Nate Davis, not a fit. Shouldn't have brought him back after that first year where it was kind of clear he just didn't want to play football. You know, even smaller moves like he's tried to force this Ryan Bates one. I think his biggest mistakes have been this. Number one, sticking by Matt Eberflus too long. And we can debate till the cows come home. Did he hire him solo initially? Did he have the power to fire him after year 2 and reset? Was it all worth it? Because you ended up with Ben Johnson. Like, we can debate all these angles, but he's the GM of the team. I would like to think if he wanted Eberflus gone after 2023, and I think there was enough evidence there where getting rid of Eberflus was justifiable, I think it could have been done. Maybe that'll come to light that that was not the case. And the part of the reason they gave him this extension is because ownership overstepped and said, you know what, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to put our faith in you. You're in charge of those decisions. Okay, I guess I could buy that, but I do think he was a little over loyal to Matt Eberflus. And I think until this offseason, I think part of that's the Ben Johnson effect. He is not invested properly in the offensive line until this year, which is why I'm freaking pumped about this year. Because not only have they spent a lot of money into it, I think they've spent some pretty smart money. The Joe Thuney trade and then the 2-year extension, great deal. Great deal. We don't have to break down why it is. We've done that on several other videos. That's a big-time move. Drew Dahlman, even if it's a slight overpay, it's free agency. Some people thought it would be 15 to 20 million. You get him at 14 per year. Best center on the market by a pretty wide margin. That's a position where you haven't been good at in a while. Really good move. Jonah Jackson, decent amount of money there. Ben Johnson's comfortable with him, speaks glowingly about him, should be an upgrade. You draft Ozzie Trapilla to increase that competition. The one good player he has brought in is before this year is Darnell Wright. He's growing at right tackle. So it seems that he's turned the page there. I think that's an area that he's fixed this year after kind of trying to band-aid it the past couple of years with the Lucas Patricks, the Ryan Bates, the you know, not Braxton Jones because that was a good find in the 5th round, but you guys get my point. Like they've tried to piece this thing together on the offensive line, and you got to spend. That's a position you got to spend at. So they've done that. Obviously, he's got to be better in the middle latter rounds of the draft because as you spend more money on your roster, you got to hit on draft picks beyond the 1st and 2nd round. His 3rd round track record is bad. Bayless Jones whiff off the team. Zach Pickens whiff so far, might not make the team this year. Karan Amagaji through 1 year doesn't look great. I don't think he was handled well last year. Probably shouldn't have played at all. But through 1 season, we'll call it a question mark. We'll see what happens in training camp in this year. I'm still holding out hope for Karan, but even if he does hit, that's 1 for 3 in the 3rd round. You got to bat at least 500 in the 3rd round, so he's got to be better there. Found Braxton Jones in the 5th. There's guys like Roshan Johnson, okay 4th round pick. There's been a couple other decent contributors, but you got to find more on day 3. You got to find at least guys that can contribute. Now, he's kind of made up for that in undrafted free agency with guys like Jack Sanborn, who contributed here for 3 years. Jalen Jones, same deal. Neither are on the team anymore, but for a 3-year UDFA contract, they were on the roster and contributed. Obviously, Josh Blackwell still here. He gets a 2nd contract. So we could break down every move, free agency, trade, draft. It's been a mixed bag. It's been some good, some bad, some awful, some really good. So, Kyler Gordon, really good pick, extension. You keep guys from the past regime like Jalen Johnson and Cole Kmet on reasonable contracts. So, I think when you add up the player personnel part of it, it's been above average, especially considering we do have to remember what he inherited, which was an aging defensive roster. That Ryan Pace he just couldn't let it go at the end. Ryan Pace, him and Matt Nagy, they felt like they were super close after 2018. And I get it. They went 12-4, had the best defense in the league, and Mitch Trubisky played average to above average ball. And they were like, okay, like let's build off of that. But then it just slowly dwindled. And instead of kind of hitting reset after 2019, they kept investing. And it's like, dude, this defense is getting old. Vic Fangio's not here. Mitch isn't the guy. Let's get Nick Foles. That's not the move you make. And let's pay Danny Trevathan, who's clearly over the hill, and all these things. So Ryan Poles had all this aging money that he had to pivot off of, take on some dead cap. And I think that's where he's done a good job, is kind of, maintaining cap flexibility. And then this year, for the first time, kind of investing some long-term money, at least on 2 or 3 year windows here. And it feels like the roster's in a pretty good spot. When you add in the new coaching staff, you should get better results out of it, because while I don't think the roster was probably as good as we thought it was last year, it was not a 5-12 roster. They should have won at least 7 or 8 games. They won 7 the year before. And I know there's still a few people out there watching, totally you're right, that maintain they should have kept Justin Fields. Caleb Williams was better last year than Justin Fields was the year before when they won 7 games. So, last year was just an embarrassment from a coaching standpoint. So here's the bottom line when it comes to the polls. Is this risky? Yeah, because you didn't necessarily have to do this right now. But if Ben Johnson is the guy, and if Dennis Allen has this defense going, he'll be here for a long time because he's not going to be a head coach again. And if Caleb hits, if it just forget Dennis Allen. If Ben and Caleb hit and grow together, it's going to work. Because if you have the right head coach and the right quarterback in place, most of the time things fall into place. Now, you could look at the Bengals and say, they have Joe Burrow and they can't win. Well, is Zach Taylor that good? Also, we call the Bears cheap. The Bengals are about as cheap as it comes. And even then, a few years ago, they were in a Super Bowl in another AFC Championship game. Now, the staying power there, that's up in the air because they've missed the playoffs the last couple of years. But, hell, if you told me they go to a Super Bowl and an NFC Championship game in back-to-back years and TBD after that, I'd sign up for that. So let's do it. I think in the end, I would say I'm good slash okay with this move. Why? Because Ben Johnson clearly signed off on it. I don't think this move happens if Ben Johnson isn't cool with it. And I'm a Ben Johnson believer. I think he's going to do well here. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Time will tell. It's like anything else. You're kind of just hoping to an extent that it works out, but I do think there are tangible things to point to that would lead one to believe that it has a good chance of working out. So you guys let me know. Was this the right move? Was extending Ryan Poles the right move? Yes or no in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the way out. And I will say this, I'll leave it with this. Ryan Poles, I do think is a smart guy. I do think there's been logic even in the moves that haven't worked, almost all of them, there's been logic to it in terms of they needed a player at that position, or you know, they may have picked the wrong player, but they didn't break the bank to do it, or oh, you wanted to help Justin Fields out, so let's bring in Chase Claypool. Like there's been thinking behind most of these moves that you're like, yeah, like that makes sense, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You got to hit more than you miss. I'd say that hasn't necessarily happened enough, and I do think you got to get more blue chippers in here. But I think coaching can help fringe red blue chip guys turn into blue chippers. So hopefully Ben Johnson and his staff can make all of that happen. All right, enough rambling from me. Hope everybody has a fantastic day. Again, shout out to the boys for filling in yesterday while I was having a little Hurricane Harbor fun for my 5th anniversary with my wife. My name is Harrison Graham. See you guys soon. Bear down.